Welcome back with the Quiet Subculture. And I'm super psyched on today because today's episode was not going to happen, actually. This is pure luck. So we were supposed to go to Sleepy Hollow today, and our friends re-diverted over here to the Nears, and we ran into Jordan Mills and Liza Mills, who are Gunks legends. Jordan has put up some of the hardest routes in the Gunks, up to 14B, including Dreamland, Blade Runner, right, 13D, and Skytop. He's just all over the guide, you know, very prolific climber. And Liza Mills, obviously, his wife, climbing up to 513, which is cutting edge climbing in the 80s and 90s, you know, particularly for a woman. And you'll see that she's going to be very, very humble about her contributions here to the Gunks. But she's been climbing here for 30 years. She's a world-class climber from her time, and recently started headpointing, and she's definitely one of the strongest leading females in the Gunks right now, which is awesome. Which is awesome. It's a child-friendly channel. And it's so cool that we're here, you know, in 2024, and she's about to lead this ultra-classic, ultra-historical route. She's gonna be getting on to Have or Have Not. What's really cool about To Have or Have Not is that this was one of the first leads that went down in the Gunks when John Stannard was pushing clean climbing. John Stannard was a prolific climber in the 70s. When they were climbing on a lot of soft iron and pitons and, you know, banging all these different pitons into the rock and destroying the rock, and he realized that over time this would make areas unclimbable. So he started publishing this pamphlet called The Eastern Trade. And in the Eastern Trade, along with this was happening in Yosemite and a couple other areas that were pushing free climbing ethics, he talked about this issue of banging in pitons and how it damages the rock, and how we should be using nuts and clean gear that can be removed to lead these routes. And when you talk about something like that, you can't just talk about it. You have to actually be able to prove to people that it can be done. So with just nuts, he freed this route To Have or Have Not, which was, I think, graded 11 plus at the time and has been since upgraded to 12C. And sort of like Liza is doing here, he used an extended coat hanger to place the upper nut. Perfectly allowable, because he probably climbed up to that nut with like no other gear because all he had was nuts. And it's really cool that this route is historical in the Gunks, in that it proved that this could be done and that we should be using clean climbing tactics to put down these routes. And also he did it ground up too, so that's incredibly scary and bold.
Hey, I'm Liza Mills. I've been climbing the Gunks for about 30 years, and recently, over the last year, started headpointing.
If you've been climbing here for 30 years, how come you started headpointing recently?
Because I just kind of top roped everything I could and felt like I needed to push myself more. And you actually inspired me a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's super cool.
Watching all your videos on your YouTube channel, and just feel like, you know, after a certain point, top roping just didn't really do it for me anymore. It just didn't feel like they sent it. So I wanted to lead all the hard things that I had top roped.
You kind of slowly been working your way through the workout wall here. What routes does that include?
So I have led Shitface, Roseland, El Camino, El Caban, Transcon, Road Warrior, Bird Brain, Slam in the Salmon, Bird Cage, To Be or Not To Be. And today I'm going to try to lead To Have or Have Not. But I had done To Be or Not To Be 7 months pregnant.
Whoa,
on
you
top rope.
let it?
So no.
Oh
But
my God.
I knew I have it so dialed. I knew that it was going to be one of the easier ones for me.
When did you get psyched on To Have or Have Not?
A couple days ago, after I led El Caban, it was I'd rather do this first and then Boogie Net, because that seems the scariest. So I just came here 2 days ago, and checked out all the gear. And today I just linked it on top rope, putting all the gear in. So I'm gonna go for it. So maybe this would be my third or fourth time.
third or fourth attempt in the last couple days or whatever.
I just find the beginning to be a bit like scary because you're pretty run out, but it's not hard, but it's still a little bit scary. Maybe like 10A, but I'm fairly confident I'm not going to fall. You have to be confident you're not going to fall. So I'm not going to fall. So, and then all the gear like in the crux is small but good.
All of the gear, you like all of it?
I like all the gear.
The crux is sort of like the most run out point, you know, like it feels very intense.
Not with my extendo nut though.
Not with the extendo nut. So what made you think of this thing, this monstrosity?
Well, I heard that you know, it was originally like placed with a coat hanger, a wire hanger, and I didn't have any wire hangers around, so but I had this stiff draw, and then I had like a piece of metal, like a rod, to keep it stiff, and the idea is to keep the whole thing really stiff, so that's why all the duct tape here and all the duct tape there and all that duct tape.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, it works great.
Yeah, I'm psyched to see you place it on lead.
It's three nuts girth hitched together, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And taped, girth and taped.
And like a metal rod inside to keep it stiff.
Yeah. Whatever it takes to make it safe, you know, whatever makes you comfortable or whatever. Those first lead jitters.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think I also like just hung out too long. First, I'm gonna put in this DMM Dragonfly with a long sling. From here, I reach up to that kind of round hold, and I get this nice, big, comfortable jug with my left hand. This is the dyno for me. It's a dyno. I guess if you're taller, it wouldn't be, but it's extremely, extremely huge jug that I'm going to in that super run out section. Pretty run out until you can put this piece in, which is a yellow totem. Shit, there's stuff up at the top, right? Like the anchor?
Yeah.
And this is underneath the roof, bury it real far in there. Super good. Right before the crux, you're going to encounter a kind of nice jug here. And I reach up with my left hand to place that RP. Really nice jug here. I reach up with my left hand to this hold and kind of crimp it. Moving into the crux, I'm gastoning on this hold. And that is the hold that I'm placing that high nut on. So this is a triangular kind of crimp that I grab and kind of pinch right on the edge. I'm stopping for just a second on this and I'm going for that jug. That used to be a jug and now it's smaller since it broke.
Woo! How'd it go?
It went good. It went really well. Better the second time. I definitely learned something this piece, which is great. It was really hard to get off my back, and that tired me out, and that's why I think I fell. But I discovered that if I clipped it to my bra strap, it was not in my way at all.
Yeah.
This was a good way because it was just
So how'd you feel on the crux? Solid? Did you feel?
felt pretty good. Yeah. I mean, it felt like the first time I was really shaky, and then the second time I felt much more solid. At the top, I had all intentions to place a black alien, but in the moment, it just wasn't going to happen, so I kept going. I just wasn't.
Tell her, that's unsafe.
I know.
No, that's awesome. And then, did you feel in the crux, there was any chance of you falling? Were you kind of second questioning it, or did you feel total?
I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just, no, I felt when I got I'm just trying to think, my left foot up on this little, small hold, I knew, I wasn't, shaking like I was the first time, so I felt like I was in there.
Yeah, awesome. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about John Stannard's ethic when it came to freeing roots in the gunks, and how he thought protection should be either fixed pitons, not removable soft iron pitons, but chromoly pitons or pitons that could stand up to the weathering. or just protected by nuts, which is what they had in the 70s. There weren't any camming devices at the time. So like the most coveted form of ascent was the all nut ascent. So what I have here actually is the first issue of the Eastern Trade, where John Stannard started to really drive this ethic home to people and hope that this would spread. This was printed in October 1971. This is actually a reproduction by Something Interesting Press. I don't think they sell it anymore. So I guess this was 3 years before the ascent of To Have or Have Not. But I just wanted to read and highlight some of the stuff that John Stannard had said here, and then maybe talk about my own ethic. So the first bit is titled "The New Ethic," right? And he essentially says, those who have climbed here for 2 or 3 years look at the piton damage everywhere and say, this must not continue. The ever-increasing numbers of new people who do not know how the rock used to be say, I see nothing unusual. I'm doing what everyone has done for years. And both of them are right. Climbing in the Gunks has been constantly changing ever since it first began. The present is unique only in that the changes climbers make now should be influenced not only by their desire to climb, but also by a desire to preserve the rock on which they climb. Right? So at the time they were hammering soft iron pitons, removing them. Every root was a nail up and then a nail down. And this was happening in Yosemite with famous routes like Serenity Crack, which he actually uses a photo of as an example in here. So that's piton damage on Serenity Crack. And he just realized that there was a better way, which was just pure clean climbing. Using nuts, using fixed pitons in communal, decided upon places, not just where he wanted them, but where the community had sort of decided it would be in the best interest of the community to have a piton there. And part of what he said too was, which I think is cool because it sort of harkens back to the language of the Declaration of Independence. He says, it is a self-evident truth that climbing standards and the climbing of each individual should be improved. Right? Like we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with inalienable rights. It's cool that John Stannard is speaking in language like that because it meant that what he was saying was axiomatic in nature, which means it's an unprovable truth. If you're friends with me, I'm saying this to people all the time, but it means that it doesn't really need further explaining. So when he's saying we should be improving ourselves as climbers and we should be improving the standard by which we climb, if somebody sort of disagrees with that, they're disagreeing with an objective reality, right? They're disagreeing with a self-evident truth as he described it. I think that's really cool because I think that it is a self-evident truth that you should be trying to do better. You should be improving yourself. You should be, that doesn't mean like grade chasing and trying to become the strongest climber, but like the discipline and the ethics that you can develop while you're climbing can be applied in a larger sense to the way you approach your life. And I think that's, what he meant by that. And then why not just up the style, right? Why not increase, I don't want to say the purity of the way you do it because I'm a head pointer, which is totally impure, but the least impactful to the environment. So yeah, I don't know. I want to talk about that. These all of these, I believe there's 12 of them maybe, or 15. I'm not sure, but these are all available on the Rock and Snow website. They're all uploaded to Rock and Snow as PDFs, and you could read them all. They're really interesting because it sort of gives you a snapshot into what they were thinking at the time in history and how routes developed over time. Also, I wanted to talk about my own ethic, which I think is the removal of pitons completely. I think gear has advanced to the point that we don't need any pitons basically anywhere, and I think that pitons themselves are a less safe version of gear that's available because pitons don't cam into the rock. I mean, in certain placements, right? If a piton is in a horizontal, it will provide a camming action if you fall on it. But if you have a micro cam or a ball nut or something that could go in place of that piton, why not just use that? It has the camming action of being falled upon and it has the camming action of itself. It seems to me that modern gear is safer than pitons, and fairly often I think the pitons that are in place in the Gunks are don't really have to be there. They're kept there as part of the history. But I don't want to say who cares about the history, because I absolutely love the history. But the history of the Gunks is improving the climbing standard, right? So why keep these historical, even though they can be interesting, sometimes you find these ring pitons and all that stuff, why keep these historical relics in place just so they're there, instead of actually living into the history of the Gunks, which is to improve the standard of climbing. And John talks about this in, the first page of this. The climbers in an area will invariably codify a set of rules or an ethic within which this advance is to be made, the advance in ethics. Once this has been done, everyone goes out and tries to bring about the improvement expected. Eventually, the potential of the area is reduced, and climbers find that more and more effort gains them progressively smaller returns. At this point, one of the more imaginative people will decide to save himself all the effort by developing a new ethic, which I think is what caused headpointing to come about, because people want to climb hard, but they don't want to die rock climbing, so it is a new ethic. If this new ethic satisfies the requirement that it relate in some natural sense to the reality presented by the rock, and if it is sufficiently rewarding, then it becomes popular, which I think is why headpointing has become popular, because you can keep yourself safe through repetition and rehearsal, and you can also place instead of climbing these routes as top rope lines, you can actually lead them, After this process has continued for a number of years, a state is reached where climbers in an area have a number of ethics from which to choose. And at the time he was saying the Shaolin Gunks are presently seeing the introduction of a third ethic, which I think he was talking about all nut ascents. Now we have, the fourth ethic, I guess, would be headpointing. And I think the fifth ethic should just be the removal of pitons entirely. I'm not entirely against bolts. I think not being able to bolt in the Gunks has limited the development of the grades, because nobody really wants to climb, X-rated 514, and you would need an incredibly high level of skill and athletic ability to do that. But the pitons, which are put in cracks that already exist, can be just replaced with modern gear. So let the pitons rot away and let them all fall out, as far as I'm concerned. Check these out on Rock and Snow. All of them are on there. We'll put the link down, and I hope you enjoy it.